So a few weeks ago, I received an email from one of my viewers, Greg. Hello, Greg, if you're out there. And he'd recently read one of my posts about this, the Dan Henry chronograph. And this was the then new 36mm Gran Turismo chrono. And I like it quite a lot, predominantly because of the size. It's not often us small-wristed folk can get a chronograph that fits, and this was very much one of them. To me, this felt like pretty much the first of its kind, at least in a long time, but Greg was keen to let me know that he thought he'd found a better alternative, or at least a cheaper alternative that offered, a similarly small chronograph for a lot less money. He shared some pictures of this watch with me, and, well, I went ahead and bought one, so I can see what the hype's about, really. Now, I purchased this one off AliExpress with my own money. I'll leave a link to it in the video description. I think this only cost me about 50 quid, and prices do vary significantly on this. I've seen this going from anywhere around £40 up to sometimes about £65, £70. But either way, it is a lot less than the Dan Henry, and it's from Addy's Dive. Now, when I first saw this watch, I knew it was at least vintage inspired. And Addy's Dive, they're not a brand typically known for original design watches. A lot of their repertoire is homage watches or clones of other luxury watches. But this was one I hadn't seen before, so I figured I'd definitely take a closer look. And I even decided to milk Greg for some more information to see if he knew if this was a clone of anything else. And apparently this is a clone of an ancient Patek Philippe design that dates all the way back to, I think, 1940s? And it hasn't been in production for decades, which to me kind of gives it a free pass, I'm typically one to significantly prefer original design watches. But if the original is literally impossible to get in new condition and the brand who designed it isn't even making it anymore, then in my books it's fair game. Now this watch straight out of the box does look quite a lot like that Patek Philippe, is it Tasty Tondi? I can't quite tell. And here is a closer look at it. So yeah, the visual similarities are very clear to see, and Greg also rightly pointed out that this watch looks an awful lot like some of the recent Furlan Marri chronographs, whose designs I previously thought were totally original, but no, turns out I was wrong. Although one thing I will say is that this Addy's Dive and some of them Furlan Marri watches, they come in different colours like this, which the original never did. Now this is one of two colours available for this watch. It comes in this, I think they call it salmon, as well as an alternative, much more clean black, which I have actually ordered as well. I'm still just waiting for that one to arrive. And I have to say, it's a very impressive looking watch for the money. The only bit that isn't fantastic, I think, is actually the salmon bit in a way. Just the texture of the salmon is very basic and plain, that inner portion. But aside from that, the retro look is on point, and it's also just got nice delicate lugs. A lot of these AliExpress watch brands tend to have really thick, chunky lugs, but this is the opposite. It's got that kind of scooped, more graceful design, and I think it looks good. It also does look small. Not sure if it's as small as the Dan Henry, but here they are side by side. Yeah, it is definitely slightly larger, but it's not a world away. Now, the strap, I'm certainly not 100% on. For the money, you can't expect a great strap, especially at this ridiculously low price. A lot of watch straps cost more than this entire watch, and as such, it is pretty rudimentary. I feel like that backing may peel away at some point, but it is at least quick release. The only other thing, really large actually, the strap here. I mean, you will probably have enough money left over to change the strap if you want to. Something tapered is a common sense choice here. It also looks really long, the strap, doesn't it? I'll try it on wrist in a second. Just give you a close-up of this dial first. So the code name for this watch is, what was it, AD2037. And this is a Mecha Quartz chronograph, I believe. So if I push this, yep, you get like a semi-smooth sweep, and then you can reset it and it should snap, yep, straight back to 12. And that is very impressive for the money. Really cool design there. Now in the flesh, this does actually look a little bit more pinky than on camera. On camera, it looks much more washed out for some reason, almost like a gold, which I think is actually what they said on the box, to be fair. I think they did describe this as gold. Yeah, it says gold, even though it actually had the salmon on the listing. But either way, I think this looks pretty good, to be honest. Really has some of those vintage vibes. As for the specs on this, yeah, it only cost me £52 all in. That's with import fees. And for that, it's a 316L stainless steel watch with actually fairly competent finishing for the money. Now, you can also buy this watch on Amazon for like twice the price, but I'm not sure why you would really, because AliExpress delivery is quite quick these days. It's got a 316L steel rear with the highly questionable Addy's Dive logo. Really doesn't suit a watch of this design. I'm glad that they haven't put any logo on the front. It looks better. But it's got a screw back there. As for water resistance, they're saying 100 meters here, which, if that's true, it would be impressive, but I doubt it a little bit. Doesn't have a screw-down crown, just a push-pull. And inside is the ever-present VK64, I think, in this case, which is one of the most popular mecha quartz movements made by Seiko. The crystal, meanwhile, is a piece of bubbled crystal here. It does seem to have some sort of anti-reflective coating on it. Not a great deal, and reflections are a little bit troublesome here. It's mineral glass, which, I mean, for this price, it's completely fine. And overall, it's actually a pretty attractive watch. Just needs a fresh strap. I'm keen to see the black version, see if I prefer it. Give you a real close-up of this watch. And I can't skip my favorite bit of the listing. The choice of light luxury reflects the fashion taste. I mean, they're not completely off the mark. It is quite a stylish watch. As for proportions, exactly on 38mm wide. So it is bigger than the Dan Henry, but still far from huge. Lug to lug is quite a compact 46mm on the nose. And thickness with the bubble effect crystal is 12.5. So without it, you're looking at quite a slim watch here. Maybe a tad under a centimetre, about 9.8. And as expected, the strap is way too long, even on the smallest hole. Although I have only got a 6¼ inch wrist, but you'd think for a small chronograph, they'd try and ship it with a slightly shorter band. But as a whole, though, I think it looks pretty good, especially for the money. I mean, I've recently looked at a Seconda watch, which is either been published by now on Ben's Watch Club or is coming up. It features in part of an Amazon's Choice video, basically. And compared to that, this is just miles better. Might not have the most original design of all time, but my goodness, this looks far nicer in every perceivable way. And it feels better too. Maybe the black version could look a little bit too plain. It's hard to tell from a lot of the online photos. Let's look at the slimness. Yeah, cheers for giving me the heads up on this one, Greg. It's a pretty cool watch, really. And to be honest, I had actually been eyeing this up a couple of times before. Not sure what kept me from pulling the trigger, but figured I'd give it a go for this one. I'll leave a link to this exact store where I bought this watch from in the video description, but there are like multiple different sellers on AliExpress. They tend to be pretty consistent across the board. So yeah, if you enjoy the channel and if you enjoy more of these slightly more original AliExpress watches, please feel free to use the form in the video description and send me an email, because I'm not one for the super clones, but I feel like this is a slight exception to the rule here. Man, I just had a closer look at this off camera. Like, every aspect of the dial is just better than the Seconda. Really just wish they could rebrand as a whole. Luckily, not too much of an issue with this watch, given it's got nothing on the dial. But, you know, the wording, Addy's Dive, and then this symbol, it just doesn't suit watches like this at all. I feel like they need to create a sub-brand, maybe get some sort of English-speaking contractor to help them with this sort of thing, because they've certainly got the manufacturing side right.